We are back here on the platform, and we are speaking today with Ricardo Miller. And you're giving us some food for thought because you talk about churches and the number of churches we have in the country. And per capita, we probably have the largest amount of churches in the world. We have about 4,000 churches.
Wow.
And somebody said that they Googled the country with the most churches in the world, and they came up with the Bahamas. Yeah. Right? But churches in the Bahamas, but for the small population that we have, Mr. Miller, with the small population we have, and the number of churches we have, the churches, for many people, many young people, is irrelevant. It's an irrelevancy.
And that has to change.
Yeah, that has to change. Yep. We have church goers, people who like church in the Bahamas. They just like it. Right. But in terms of whether the church is making a real difference to people who are in their late teens and early 20s, tell me.
Well, let me say this then. Let me plug this in there because it's well stated, Mr. Jones, that if we're going to see a change in our culture and our society at large, we're going to have to address the issues, really. And I've heard talk shows, I've heard debates, I've seen panels, I've seen all kinds of interesting, what's the problem and how we're going to address it. But I'm saying from a young person perspective, when it comes to the church, when it comes to community organizations, when it comes to government, when it comes to schools, you know, one of the things I realized what was the biggest problem for me, holding me back, was denial. Denial.
What you denied?
I was denying everything. I was denying denial. I was in denial when it comes to reading. You know how many times I want to go to the bathroom, okay? The teacher, they going around from one person to read, and I'm waiting. I'm about 3 kids there, so that means I'm going to be right about here. So right when they reach that girl, I need to go to the bathroom. You know?
Because you had to read out.
Because I would have to read out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And for 12 years, pretty much, that almost worked. And when they didn't let me go to the bathroom, I would have an attitude with somebody and the teacher would throw me out now. Because I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to admit my head was big. I didn't want to admit my nose was big. I didn't want to admit, when I moved to the United States, I didn't want to admit I talk funny. Until I realized I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be who I was created to be. I want to be successful and I want to maximize my potential. I think we have to help young people, we have to help parents, we have to help organizational leaders who come in and evaluate and assess things and say what it is. One of the things I do as a consultant when I visit a lot of churches, and one of the reasons why I think I've had some success is I don't lie to myself when it comes to it is what it is. And so I tell people, when you walk in a children's classroom, in the first 30 seconds, what you see is what it is. After the 30 seconds, you start justifying. So in other words, you walk in the room and you say, this room is chaotic. But then after 30 seconds, you say, well, you know what? The teachers are on strike. Well, you know, government cutting back. Well, you know what? This the growth. And you start going into all of these the fact is, it is chaotic. Or you walk in a room and you see, wow, is this the future? Because when you look at E.P. Roberts, you're looking at the future of the Bahamas. When you look at C.H. Reeves and Aaron Bailey, you're looking at the future of the Bahamas. And when you drive in there, every time you have an assembly, every time you hear the challenges of parents, this is the future. And that's why I say we have to think next. We can't even think now. We're already in it. We have to think, how do we get out of it and jump up there? So time will catch us, not basically trying, because it's too gone now.
Yeah, but we are imperiled now. We are imperiled now. Yeah. And the future is now.
Yes.
The future for us is now. Because if we do not deal with these social problems, the level of social decay, Godfrey, now, we are going to be imperiled.
Right. I'm not against now. Let me tell you this.
Yes.
I believe in specialty. I really do. And that's one of the things I come to appreciate when I was in the United States. Because when I was here, I was trying to do a little bit of everything. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think I was achieving the level of success that I needed to achieve in what I was doing. I believe that when I focus on this group, then there's another group of people who says we're focusing on now. The next group looking back at the past, because we got to study the past. Because if you don't study the past, you create the opportunity of repeating it so much more. So there's those who need to know what happened wrong and what could we have done different, looking back at that. But the same group who's looking back can be the ones who are looking into now and can be the one who's looking forward. Do you see what I'm saying? So from a organizational standpoint for change, we need the three groups. I'm not against them. I'm just the one who specializes in the next.
Okay. I hear you. Now, what are you taking from now to the next, or what are you taking from yesterday? All right, back in the day, as people say, because we talked about the value system that we had back in the day.
Yes.
That there's certain things that are relevant forever.
Yes, I agree. They're principles.
Because the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah, they're principles, right.
There are certain principles that must carry you through no matter where you are.
Right, yes. And I think we need to identify them and keep them. But we have to teach them. I don't think we're a society of teaching and training and developing on every facet. I think some of these, what they call community centers, need to ask themselves, what are we doing to positively bring about change in the community? Once again, going back to the schools, how are we bringing about a supportive system? We complain about the parents, but complaining doesn't change anything. What kind of systems are we bringing in place to really make difference in the lives of these children?
What you really call it for is a changing role for the school system. That's what you're asking, because you seem to want the school to do more than just provide education. You wanted the school to help in child rearing and almost psychological.
I would like, because the problem is so large, I think every facet, every part of our society has to decide we're going to play a little part. In other words, corporations are going to have to decide, you know what, we're going to give to programs that are actually helping with this problem. The government is going to have to say, you know what, we're going to stop and identify and try to make sure we're doing our part. Churches are going to have to say we're going to do our part. If you just go back to parents alone, which parents are supposed to be the number one leading factor into the development of their children, unfortunately, most of these kids I say kids because most of them are kids who are having kids.
Right. I was going to say to you, Mr. Miller, you know, we have a generational problem. We are constantly producing children, and their parents are not as socialized as they should be.
Right.
Their parents are not infused with the value system that they should be. And so, is it true that every generation is going to get weaker?
Unfortunately, the way it's going, you can tell what's happening based on going through the school system. Go to EPRO, go to each school system and look. The children are the future. We say that, right?
Yes.
But E.P. Roberts, and I call him Black E.P. Roberts a lot because I went to E.P. Roberts. E.P. Roberts in 2014 is not E.P. Roberts in 1980.
Let me ask you this. The phenomenon that we have in the Bahamas and this region with at-risk youth, is that phenomenon, Godfrey likes to talk about the Scandinavian countries, the European countries. This phenomenon of at-risk youth, they have the same problem?
I think at different rates and at different, I think there are different facets that where we're dealing with in the United States. I was in Mexico not so long ago working with the educational system there in regards to some of the issues they're faced with. They got a massive problem, but it's still not the same. They're youth problem. They're young problems related to young people, but it's not still the same problem. The value system is off. Like here in the Bahamas, we don't somewhat have a money problem. We have a mismanagement problem. When it comes to me, that's my view, because one of the things I notice is you can go in the Grove, you can go all around, and you see kids in these small little homes with Jordans on. They're about 7 years old, got on gold chain, got on
Yeah, but isn't that the problem? The problem is materialism.
That's why the mixed management of funds. In other words, the funds are there somehow.
But so materialism is partially the problem
for us,
for what we have.
That's a part of ours. But Mexico was not the same. Haiti, I went to Haiti. Haiti is not the same. So, but they're still having problems. You see what I'm saying? So, when it comes to us, I think it's important for us to identify who we are. We're definitely a country of a lot of people who have not embraced, proud to be Bahamian in every facet, being the history of the Bahamas and the values and the principles. When I moved to the United States, I remember somebody saying to me, man, I can barely hear your accent. I said, well, I'm trying my best to keep it as long as I can. And they said, why, you live here now? I said, well, I live here now, but I will always be a Bahamian. Got a flag, got as many flags as I can put them on, because I see other countries, other citizens from other countries come in there, become citizens of the United States, and they're proud of who they are and I've known a number of other Bahamians. It's like they camouflage. They go in, and you can't tell that they're there. And I'm saying that's a part of going back to knowing who you are. You have to be proud of who you are. You got to know where you're going, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes.
I told some friends of mine that you take, for example, Colin Powell. Colin Powell is an American.
Right.
Was brought up with West Indian values.
Right.
Eric Holder is an American, but brought up with West Indian values. You say you're a Bahamian. What value you bring your kids up with?
Right. See, now I like you said that, because see, I've had to say on a number of occasions when I saw people print stuff in papers and say he's a African American. I said, oh no, let's fix that. I'm a Bahamian, and that's why my son is learning the values to which I believe I was able to pick up along the way, values that I'm learning from my mother now. You know,
see, I tell my friends, right? You have a first generation Caribbean people,
right.
A Jamaican and a Barbadian. He became Attorney General, right? And Secretary of State.
Right.
Something that no black Americans ever done before.
Right.
What makes them different
yes.
from the fella who'd been in that country for 3 generations and saying, hey man, and this, you know, all that, you know.
It's the value system that I believe that they inherited. I believe it. My mother told me something about 4 years ago. She said, be stronger than you look, as we were progressive in the United States. And because one of the problem was, I had a number of colleagues, I got a couple book deals, and one of my friends, as soon as he got a book deal, he went and got a Land Rover, you know, got a brand new one, and then, you know, he wanted to get a BMW. Yeah, and it was just all of that, right?
Because he's an American.
But you know, he's a Bahamian.
He's a Bahamian?
He's a Bahamian.
Yeah, but he's an American. He ain't no Bahamian.
He's a Bahamian. But watch this. Once again, being taught by my mother, hey, be stronger than you look. In other words, take the time to make sure that you're not looking better than you are, but strengthen your base. Now I'm teaching my son that. Hey, son, let's carry this on. You have the opportunity to be who a lot of other people won't have the opportunity to be, and that is because you're pulling from the Bahamas and the United States.
You work with T.D. Jakes.
Yes, sir.
A whole lot of T.D. Jakes rubbed off on you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he's a powerful presenter, and you're a powerful presenter as well.
Thank you, sir.
But at the end of the day, it is about what a good quality of life is all about. And what is a good quality life?
Right.
That's the last question.
What is a good quality life? I think a life where you can go back and say, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm living my life based on design, based on purpose. And I can go to bed at night and I'm at peace with myself. I'm at peace with the fact that I gave my best. And I believe that is something every young person, and that doesn't mean the acquiring house and land and cars and a lot of money, even though that may come along the way. At the end of the day, you need to be at peace with yourself, knowing that you have done well in yourself based on your potential, not based on anybody else's, and being able to say, you know what, I'm not in denial. This is who I am.
You're a good man. Thank you so very much for being here today. Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Godfrey.
And you say
thank you.
He's a powerful speaker.
Yes, absolutely. And we wish that you would spend more time here in the Bahamas because we need it, man.
I plan to do so.
Thank you. Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening, everyone.